Check 1, check 2. Hey guys, I got a new mic. Now you can really get the sensuals of my voice. Hey, welcome to Chillin' Channel, where we've got the vibes that chill. Coming up is the follow-up to the sensational devlog from Chillin' Games, so sit back and let those chills ride. Okay, calm down there, Pirate Radio. So last time we were talking about messing around with 2D and 3D and how I decided to not use the terrain tool. Instead, I just started putting sprites into the scene, trying to follow the concept art as closely as I could. This turned out pretty effective, once I got the camera figured out at least. At first I was not sure if I wanted to use the orthographic or the perspective camera, or really what the difference was. Orthographic cameras are very common in 2D games, so naturally most of the tutorials I was following at the time used them. They do not show depth. The z-axis is basically another way of sorting, which is perfect for most 2D games. You can really see what I mean with the isometric grid-based games. See how all the squares are the same size no matter how far away they are? So naturally, in my grid-based game that looks 2D, I decided to go with a perspective camera. I'm not sure why I always try to buck the trend, but I usually end up making a ton more work for myself because of it. Surprisingly enough, in this instance, it made a ton more work for me. You'll see what I mean later when I talk about making the grid. So the other big choice with the camera was the position and the angle. As you can see, the more dramatic the angle, the more of a top-down view that you get, and less background that you can see. I ended up liking about 30 degrees the best. I have enough space for the grid and a nice background, plus it fits pretty close to the concept art. So since the sprites are flat, you just have to adjust their angle as well so that they are all lined up perpendicular with the camera angle, and boom! You got a 2D looking game in a 3D environment. At this point I had it looking pretty good and I was happy with it, so I decided to start trying to get it out there for people to see. That meant making all the social medias for Chillin' Games. And let me tell you, I quickly learned why social media assistants is a real job. They all suck. Facebook basically does pay to win, where you have to pay them if you expect anyone to see your posts. Twitter notifications don't seem to tell me anything about my own stuff. Reddit has like 10 rules for every subreddit, so you spend hours reading them all so your posts won't get removed. Pinterest? Well, I don't really understand Pinterest. Then there was Instagram. Oh, Instagram. Why are you the way that you are? I'll spare you the details lest this vlog turn into a rant about why social media management sucks. But after wasting way too much time on that, I had to make some cover art for them all. Since I was already committed to the pixel art look, I had to use some software for pixel art. I have experience with Photoshop from my college days, but since that costs money, I ended up learning GIMP, its freeware counterpart. These two programs seem to be trying to be the de facto do-it-all digital art softwares, which is great for generalization, but leads to the problem of just having way too many options. You basically have to relearn it every time you open it. That leads me to usually use my fallback program that is paint.net for any quick image manipulation that I need. Unfortunately, it's not the greatest for pixel art, so I did some Googling and found Aseprite, which is almost perfect if all you want to do is pixel art. It's very cheap and is actually open source, which I'm a huge fan of, so it's a big win in my books. So I started making logos with big scary tentacles in them. Really gives off the chillin' vibes, huh? No, there is a reason for them. Alongside making games, I realized that I wanted to be a solo dev. I'd have to pick up a bunch of other skills that I don't have. I tried to break these down into a few categories: world building, writing, music, art, and advertising. Now, we kind of covered advertising, that's what all the social medias are for. But the other ones are much more interesting, I assure you. World building had always been interesting to me, so of course that's where I started. There's a YouTube channel that I got totally hooked on called Overly Sarcastic Productions that covers all kinds of writing conventions and tropes. I'll have a link in the description. I would also highly recommend Crash Course channel by the Vlog Brothers if you want to learn, well, anything. Watching these and learning about Tolkien and how he basically pioneered the fantasy world building, I was ready to get a move on. I created a future world filled with robots and AI corporations and sentient black sludge taking over the world. I began writing short stories set in this world. Now, these may not be as good as the world building itself. I've never really written a fictional story before, but I thought putting pen to paper was probably the best way to change that. Well, I had no pen or paper. Again, it was just a Word doc. So that's advertising, world building, writing. What else was on my list? Let me see here. Yes, okay, no, No, I could skip that today. Oh, here, art and music. That's right. So this was definitely the scariest part. As you probably know from last time, I chickened out and ended up getting some art for my game. That hasn't stopped me from practicing and learning though. There is a lot to learn too. Like, did you know that brown is just dark orange? Like, all the primary colors and secondary colors have a dark version except for orange because we just randomly gave it a name for some reason? Blows my mind. Anyway, I am feeling a little bit more confident about my art these days. Music, on the other hand, not so confident. I know from music class that there is far too much to learn for it ever to make any sense for me to be a musician. I may end up outsourcing for my game as well. But again, that hasn't stopped me from making some lo-fi background loops. I have and will continue to use them for these YouTube videos though. They seem to be working for that, so at least there's that. I will continue to build on these different categories over on chillingames.com. Feel free to check it out anytime to see the progress. Oh, and I'll also be making video games. I knew I was forgetting something. I'll be talking about my deep dive into video game programming soon as well. Don't worry about that. But for now, hit that like, subscribe, tell me the prospects of my ASMR career in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.